the overall portfolio. But let's actually step back a little bit. I think the bottom line is that we have been living through extremely challenging, times, at least over the last 1 year. And, it's the combination of changes in the markets. In certain sectors, there were the slowdowns that were actually going ahead and happening, and the economy is recalibrating. Digitization was playing a critical role. And then, when you add the COVID-19 pandemic, you had a perfect storm out over there. And, what we saw was that, this was doing only one very important thing, and that was really accelerating the entire transformation that each and every one of us was going through or experiencing in our business. And this transformation essentially took form of a couple of, I would say, priorities, if I was to put it. The first was really connecting operations with support. Second was using data and analytics to drive strategy. And then the third was really disrupting your own self, your own ecosystem to go ahead and survive. And when you talk about all of these things, it basically means that there is a change in the way in which business works. And in order for IT to really adjust to that particular change, IT needs to go ahead and also change its own mindset. It needs to really start reprioritizing as to where it wants to spend its time, efforts, and energy. And in many which ways, the Rise with SAP tries to go ahead and address that particular problem. Now, from an architecture perspective, even as this entire digitization effort was happening, there were a couple of things that were actually evolving from an SAP perspective. The first one was that, even as we accelerated our transformation as a cloud company, SAP had been building certain very credible assets in terms of its product portfolio over the last couple of years. The first and the foremost was the business technology platform. And this is like foundation, bricks, mortar, cement, rebars that are required for going ahead and creating any house. The building blocks that are there required for creating any kind of an application. Considering the fact that SAP developers wrote the highest amount of code amongst application developers globally, I think it will be fair to say that if we are able to create a technology platform which increases the productivity of our developers, there are benefits that automatically start coming across to the developers in our community, customer community, as well as partners as they start going ahead and developing around the SAP application ecosystem. The second component that came in was in terms of the intelligent suite. And this was acceleration around S/4HANA adoption, which we have seen in a big way happening not only in India, but also globally. But then the other important point that came through was the transition of S/4HANA being delivered as an on-premise only product to being also available as a service. The third area that SAP has been investing in a big way, along with its partners, has been around industry cloud. And this is also a significant, I would say, change in the way SAP solutions get built, or for that matter, partner solutions get built and they get delivered. Earlier, what used to happen is when we spoke about industry solutions, we used to speak in form of ISU or IS Auto or IS Mills, or one of those add-on capabilities that used to go ahead and sit within the core ERP itself. More and more, what we find is that the speed with which customers are going ahead and changing or moving down the digital path, the need is for more flexible architectures whereby you can plug in a capability as the business requirements go ahead and change, rather than waiting for a specific EHP or a service pack. So, I remember a situation where I spoke with a customer and he said, Pushkar, we want to implement this new capability that has come in commercial product project management. but that requires me to do an upgrade from version 16.10 of S4HANA to 1709 or later. And unless I don't do that, I will not be able to use it, correct? And we clearly wanted to go ahead and avoid these kind of scenarios. So what we have done is develop an API-based and microservices-based architecture around the industry cloud, which will in turn plug into the intelligent suite itself, which is again API enabled, and quickly allow you to start leveraging additional processes. Now, this effort is not limited only to SAP. We have been joined in this particular endeavor by a lot of our partners, and both SAP products as well as partner products are going to be available through a common storefront. Besides this, we have the SAP business networks, and these are investments that we've been doing over a period of time. But more and more, what is happening is that we are converting everything from from these standalone business networks to basically network of networks. So Ariba getting connected back into Fieldglass being connected into the asset intelligence network, or for that matter, the logistics network. So instead of creating siloed networks, what we are creating in effect is basically a network of networks over here. And then recently, SAP also went ahead and acquired a new capability, a company called Signavio, which actually brings in business process management as a capability. And a critical capability within that was around process intelligence. So, what we have in effect is not only an extremely robust foundation in terms of the suite capabilities, but also analytics, which is going to go ahead and ensure that customers can go ahead and get onto a path of continuous business improvement rather than those piecemeal approaches that we used to go ahead and take earlier. Now, keeping this in mind, we said that how do we package all of this and make it available to our customers so that we are catering to the requirements of each one of you, with the assumption that the starting point for every customer is slightly different. So there could be certain customers who are on ECC6. There are others who are early adopters of the cloud, so they have a lot of other cloud products, but they don't have the ERP. They want to go ahead and start focusing on that. There could be customers who are already early adopters of the cloud ERP and want to take the next steps. Or you could be an extremely large company with a complex on-premise landscape with a lot of integrations, and your whole objective is that how can you go ahead and simplify the overall run operations for your company such a manner that it frees up IT bandwidth, so that it can be focused on to the transformation initiatives. So keeping all of these different requirements in mind, we went ahead and launched Rise with SAP Business Transformation as a Service. And I think the most important thing that we focused on is that it is at your own terms and your own timelines. So what we are saying is that we really want to ensure that you are leveraging the capabilities based on the starting point and the journey map that you want to really go ahead and follow. Okay. Now, this service is not something that has evolved overnight. It is nothing else but an evolution of certain capabilities that started way back in 2013 when we announced the SAP HANA Enterprise Cloud. Okay. At that point of time, it was a bring your own license kind of an offering, not really a full-scale SaaS offering. Over a period of time, it got morphed into the S4HANA public cloud, which was limited for a fair long duration of time for customers who are doing greenfield implementations. In 2016, we went ahead and brought this onto Azure, AWS, as well as GCP. So the hyperscaler platforms were sort of standardized as the mechanism of running these cloud solutions. And 2020-21, what we have done is really announced a couple of things. The first is that we have announced what is known as SAP HANA Enterprise Advanced Edition, so HEC Advanced Edition. Second is that we said that we're going to accelerate the move to the cloud. And then the third most important thing that we are focused on is, delivering RISE with SAP to our customers, so that it becomes really easy for customers to start their journeys towards adoption of S/4HANA. Now, there are, last year we ran a pilot around this. We had over 130 customers who got onboarded into the S/4HANA Private Cloud Edition. As we said today, our S/4HANA Cloud is supporting over 1,500 customers, and about 44 to 45% of these are actually sitting on hyperscalers. So these are March 2021 numbers. Subsequent to that, end of March, we had obviously added more customers. So we are today at about 44 to 45% of the customers sitting on hyperscaler. Interestingly, what we have been able to go ahead and deliver is a 99.997% average system availability on the hyperscalers. Now, we all know that delivering 5.9 SLAs in the cloud is difficult, but delivering 99.997% average of system availability on at an application level means that there is a little bit more than just brute, or I would say hardware resilience that is actually sitting behind it. So what SAP has really gone ahead and done and invested into is creating these workload specific reference architectures, the cloud context architecture. So, working with each of the hyperscalers, our spend with them is in excess of €1 billion every year. So we are able to go ahead and tell them that there are certain native capabilities that we want them to deliver to us, so that their clouds can become more enterprise ready. Okay. And then there are cloud and application native backups and disaster recovery mechanisms that we've gone ahead and put in place. The other important point which I want to highlight is that as we go forward, close to 98% of the activities that are involved in operating and managing this particular cloud are completely automated. And that's a very, very high degree of automation that we've been able to go ahead and bring in. This number will just keep increasing further, but it is definitely that we intend to go ahead and improve upon a lot more and accelerate the level of automation in the days to come. So in a way, the entire RISE with SAP business transformation as a service is not just another upgrade. It's rather a new way of working. And the whole objective is that we simplify the bundle, really make it one offer, one contract. We ensure that there are the necessary services that are available from both SAP as well as partners at every step of the way. And third most important thing is, rather than going ahead and focusing on these huge, massive investments that you would do once every 2 years or 3 years, what we are saying is, let's actually get into a motion where we are saying that we pick up a particular capability, deliver on that, get the utilization going, and once that has happened, then move to the next. So the whole objective is bite-sized, investments and ensuring that the focus is in terms of adoption and driving the outcomes, rather than the large contracts which you would then have to go ahead and chew and deliver upon over an extended period of time. So there's a fundamental change that is also happening in terms of how our own sales teams get measured, and how we go ahead and measure as to whether we are delivering to your requirements. Now, coming quickly to what does this entire bundle actually mean? So what we are offering with one offer, one contract, and one company is really the option of SAP S/4HANA public or private cloud. We go ahead and give you the option of the infrastructure provider of choice. So you can, like earlier, you could go ahead and select an HANA, Oracle, DB2, SQL Server as a database. Now you can go ahead and say that this is the hyperscaler on which I want to go ahead and host and operate my services. We go ahead and bring in business process intelligence capabilities. So there will be certain capabilities, that are already there in terms of the spotlight reports, so on and so forth, and the benchmarking that happens with that. But this is going to get further augmented as we go towards Sapphire. Then for customers who are going through the S/4HANA upgrade project, they require certain tools in terms of the custom code analyzer, the readiness check, learning how to go ahead and get their people trained. And that's again bundled in over here. And then besides all of this, we have two other capabilities. The first is SAP Business Network Starter Pack, which basically comprises of three capabilities. Small amount of capability which can be topped up, but nevertheless, it is built in. The first is around the SAP Ariba Business Network. So the entire collaboration for up to 2,000 documents has been bundled in. Besides this, we have a certain small starter pack for the asset intelligence network. This is again for collaboration along for your key assets with the suppliers, with the partners who are going ahead and operating or managing them. And then last but not the least, we also have capabilities around the logistics business network that have been actually bundled in. And then the other thing that we've gone ahead and done is that we have included into this particular contract at no incremental cost to you the SAP Business Technology Platform credits. So depending upon the size of the contract, there will be certain number of credits that will be actually passed on to the customer during the course of the contract. And these can be utilized for various different things. It can be utilized to for example, do a POC around chatbots, or for that matter, a robotic process automation scenario, or for that matter, you want to go ahead and use it to add the number of messages that you have, which you want to utilize around the SAP integration suite itself. So there are close to about 52 different capabilities that sit within BTP, and you can actually leverage those credits against any of those capabilities. Moving on quickly, I would say that from a key benefits and value perspective, what we are definitely going and bringing to the table, and specifically over here, I want to talk about the S/4HANA private cloud, because this is relevant for a lot of our customers who are doing brownfield conversions, is the fact that we go ahead and bring in the entire scope of S/4HANA, which is available on premise, including support for the 25 different industries into the private cloud itself. We bring in the capability to deploy any partner add-ons which are S/4HANA certified. The localization for up to all of the 64 countries/regions and 39 languages that we support on premise. And then, we are obviously engaged to handhold you through the entire upgrade or the conversion process. The second important thing that is there is that it also allows you to do system conversion, which means that bring in all of your historical data, or you could go ahead and say that you want to do a selective data transition, where you can obviously go ahead and say that, hey, I want to move with only this particular company and say 2 years of data. So all of those various permutation combinations are available. The application and the technical operations are again out of one hand. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about this in greater detail in the next couple of slides. And then, there is safeguarding that is actually there for all of your systems. Now, besides this, let's get a little bit into how this entire construct works. So as of today, what happens is that you have perpetual licenses, and typically you come to SAP for software and support. You have another vendor who is managing the infrastructure, a third partner who is handling the technical managed services, and then maybe an internal team or an external partner who is going and handling the advisory and implementation services as well as the AMS. Now, what we essentially found was that we could go ahead and deliver, uh, the following three capabilities, that is software support, infrastructure management, and technical managed services in an extremely cost-effective, resilient, and standardized way with S/4HANA Private Cloud or the public cloud itself. So that is what we have gone ahead and put into a single commercial construct. And in effect, what we are going ahead and saying is that we are freeing up the resources that you have to focus on those aspects which actually go ahead and add significant amount of business value to your end customer. So what am I doing? I'm really, through Rise with SAP, freeing up IT bandwidth and refocusing those efforts onto driving the transformation initiatives rather than focusing those on the run operations. And in that context, the two areas which do have an immediate impact in terms of the transformation are going to be the advisory and implementation services and the AMS services. So these are things that we free you up to go ahead and focus on while taking over everything that is in blue. Now, this means that you don't need to go ahead and sign a separate contract with AWS, GCP, or Azure. Okay, it is all within one single contract, one single price. So one neck to catch in that sense. Now, within the S/4HANA Private Cloud, what we include is the software and enterprise support. You have got the connectors into any of the cloud products that we have. Okay, you have Adobe document services for your printing and interactive forms, again bundled in. Up to 2 million forms are bundled in. You have nearly all of the S/4HANA LOB and industry add-ons which were available on premise being available on the cloud. And then obviously any S/4HANA certified add-ons, they may be on SAP's own price list. An example of this could be, for example, a Vistex or an OpenText. So those are pretty much available. But even if these are just S/4HANA certified, they can still be actually deployed over here. The other important point that we go ahead and add to this is the entire infrastructure and its management. So again, the focus is on ensuring that you have the lowest TCO, highest flexibility and scalability. And then from a technical managed services, we build in the high availability by design. We also ensure that all of your data is getting, sent across to a remote data center for business continuity purposes once every 30 minutes. So basically, in a worst case situation, if a DC was not available, the maximum loss of your data will be about 30 minutes. And then the standard SLA for productive systems is 99.7% uptime SLA. Okay. Whereas that for non-productive systems is stated at 95%. Last but not the least, as I mentioned, we handle the entire technical system operations, the landscape deployment, and the technical upgrade installation. And more about that in the next slide. Besides this, there is a 24/7 service delivery for production. And then there is a continuous service review that actually happens, and at least one checkpoint where we have an engagement manager speaking with the customer in terms of the overall delivery on a monthly basis. Now, going a little bit further into this, what we are in essence saying is that everything that is down over here in the blue, in the dark blue shading, that is the SAP technical managed services, infrastructure, operating system, database management, and technical setup are all within SAP's boundary. And then when it comes to the AMS, that is something handled by partners. Similarly, when it comes to release upgrade, there will be certain activities around the upgrade installation that SAP will do, but the functional upgrade will be actually carried out by the partner. And then The application AMS again continues with the partner, or the advisory and implementation services again continue with the partner itself. So that is essentially a high level R&R matrix, if I was to use the word. But if one was to get into a little bit more detail, what we are saying is the entire infrastructure and the associated cloud operations, the service management, which includes the account management, event detection and notification, incident management, basic operations in terms of startup shutdown, so on and so forth, database management and tuning, any patching that is associated, the entire infra management, change control in terms of the patching of the application, the database, or the hardware slash OS, and the entire security. These, all of these items which are in dark gray are in essence included as a part of the SAP offering itself. Moving on quickly, these are the aspects which are clearly not within our own, I would say, domain, that is the advisory and implementation services and the AMS. So this will be clearly something that will get delivered by our partner. Okay. Now, these are some of the names of the partners who are already assisting our customers in their journey. But the bottom line is that besides this particular list, that we already also have a large number of Indian SIs who have traditionally worked with our customers, the likes of Yash Technology, Savic and Intellect and Intelligence, again featuring in the list of customers and partners who are working. So then you also similarly have Hybar, who has been extremely active in this space. So that list continues to expand, but there are more than enough that are there. I'll just move quickly further into what are the key differences. So as I mentioned earlier on, there are basically two versions of the cloud offering. The first is what is known as the public cloud. And this is great for somebody who is moving out of an Exapta or a B1, or for that matter, a BID, business by design, and wanting to move on to S/4HANA. Now, in these scenarios, they're obviously looking out for a highly standardized, I would say, fit to standard kind of an approach that is there. And so the public cloud has its own merits. So, over here, SAP does most of the work that is there. The activities that are there with the partner are basically around implementation and the content ownership. From a licensing perspective, it is a software subscription. Then the second offering that we have, which will be relevant to a lot of installed base customers, is the private cloud. Over here, SAP takes care of everything that is lights on, which I had described in the earlier slides. But then things like content ownership, AMS, and content lifecycle management, or for that matter, implementation, are clearly within the realms of the partner slash customer. Model of licensing continues to be software subscription. Then you have the perpetual mechanism, which is there with the on-premise model, which is very similar, if you ask me, to the private cloud, except over here, the product support, technical operation, and infrastructure are additionally within the control of the customer slash partner. So what we are doing in effect is that the S/4HANA private cloud in many which ways is the best of both the worlds, because it gives you all of the benefits that come in with the public cloud, but at the same time gives you the same level of control, or the working operational model is very similar to what you had on premise. Okay. Again, the differences or similarities do not end over there. With the private cloud, you can go ahead and do exactly the same set of extendabilities and go to the extent of going and doing even key-based modifications that you could do on premise. Okay. In the public cloud, I would say that you can do nearly all of the same extensibilities that you want, but you cannot go ahead and change the core SAP transaction. Okay. But otherwise, using the extendability kit, the capability
Mukesh, I'm not able to hear anymore.
less similar. The only thing that will change will be the fact that you will do things using the extensibility framework in the public cloud, whereas in the private cloud and on-premise, we are essentially talking about doing this using the. Just give me 1 second. I have an urgent call that's coming in. So just give me 30. Sorry, guys, I had a small disruption in between. So as I mentioned that the capabilities are similar to as far as on-premises versus the cloud, private cloud is concerned. And for most of our installed base customers, what you will find is SAP will typically start off by recommending the private cloud. Even for net new customers, we are recommending the private cloud to start off with till such a point in time that your extensibility framework related trainings and change management is not understood, and those capabilities are not developed by the partner. We will continue prescribing this particular route as the partners get up to steam in terms of doing deployments on the public cloud. Yes, we will go ahead and shift to this particular model because this is the model that delivers uh, nearly the same level of extensibility, but it also goes ahead and provides for the lowest TCO to our customers and the fastest path to innovation. Now, the other important point and difference that is there is that in the private cloud, the upgrade entitlement is twice in a year, and the minimum upgrade frequency is twice in a year. In the private cloud, you have the upgrade entitlement to be once every year, and we require you to go ahead and carry out an upgrade at least once every 5 years. So very different from how the public cloud actually goes ahead and works. Uh, I will quickly move now to the licensing aspects of things, and then we will close it out for a Q&A. But there is a substantial difference and simplification in terms of how licensing itself has evolved from the public cloud to or rather from ECC days to the S4 HANA cloud itself. So way back in ECC, we used to have 16 different types of users, and you had to go ahead and license, the users according to what capabilities that the people were using, with no recourse to going and changing the user type once you had bought those licenses. So in a way, it was putting a lot of our customers into straitjackets, and used to sometimes create situations of shelfware. Uh, Despite customers wanting to go ahead and license appropriately for the various user categories. Okay. With S4 HANA, what happened was that user type actually decreased from close to 16 down to 4. So you had a developer, you had a professional, you had a functional user, and a productivity user. And with S4 HANA Cloud, what we have done is that we have brought it down to one single licensing metric, but three different user types that can be deployed with that. Okay, I will explain this in a little bit more detail as we go forward. Similarly, we have the licensing metrics for the industry and the cloud. Solutions have also been simplified to a large extent. So the number of metrics have been brought down, and wherever capabilities uh, were I would say we could go ahead and merge multiple capabilities into a single product. We have gone ahead and done that. Then you have had digital access as a mechanism for any kind of indirect use or via APIs. But the other fourth dimension that becomes important in the cloud is infrastructure add-ons. So while with S/4HANA Cloud, private cloud, you go ahead and get a standard 3-system landscape, okay, based on a t-shirt size configuration, which is based on the number of FUE. There are also people who will come back and tell us that I require sandbox environments, or for that matter I require additional tenants, or for that matter I require more storage or application servers, as the case may be. And in order to meet those requirements, we have the capability of going ahead and making those infrastructure add-ons and making those available to our customers. Okay. Uh, Now coming and expanding a little bit on the full usage equivalent. The full usage equivalent is essentially the licensing metric for all users, named users in S/4HANA Cloud. And it is basically I would say, an exchange currency. Okay. So full usage equivalent gets converted into half a developer, which means if you want to deploy a developer user, you need to have 2 FUEs which will get consumed. You want to have an advanced user, you go ahead and have a 1:1 swap ratio. 1 FUE gives you 5 core users and 1 FUE gives you 30 self-service users. So let's take the example down over here, where the customer had 40 advanced users, 75 core users, and 270 self-service users. What we will see is that if we follow the table above, that is the weighing factor, 1 FUE is being utilized for each advanced user. So 40 FUE over here. Core users follow a 1:5 ratio. So effectively, to deliver 75 core users, I require 15 FUE, and self-service users follow a 1:30 ratio. So to deploy 270 self-service users, I require only 9 FUE. So despite I having more than, I would say, 385 plus users, I'm able to go and provision them using 64 FUE. Okay. The other important point that is there is that you can reallocate these users as many times as you require, during the life cycle of the contract itself. So I can go ahead and start off with a profile where I have 70 advanced users, 300 core users, and 600 self-service users. But then once I brought about, say, automation in a particular area around procurement or finance, I wanted to transfer some of these advanced user FUEs to other areas. I can always say, for example, swap out 10 of those FUEs and add 50 users to the core. So that is what you go ahead and see over here, that initially we had 70, 350, and 600. And with the swap, you are able to go ahead and move it to 600, 400, or other 60, 400, and 600 users in the advanced core and self-service type respectively. Okay. So this is an important change. And what we also advise all of our customers is that when you're going ahead and licensing or getting into a discussion with your SAP account managers, please spend some time on this, because practically what we have seen is that a lot of customers do have a lot of advanced or professional users or LPUs sitting over there, and there is a significant opportunity to do cost optimization in terms of your total spend if you were to take benefit from this particular model. Now we will spend only a few more minutes on to another important slide, which is around what user category does each of the user types actually require. So who can do what? Okay. So the advanced user can do effectively everything. Okay. But it is the minimum at the bare minimum, the advanced user is required for doing everything that is related to finance, everything that is related to core HR, and everything that has got to do with sourcing and procurement. So if you look at it within your organization, if you have 1,000 people who are using SAP, typically the combination of these three departments does not go ahead and exceed approximately 30-35%. Okay. The rest of the users, for all practical purposes, can be actually core users or self-service users. So if you look at things like asset management, okay, where you're talking about your QM, PM, plant maintenance, asset tracking, so on and so forth, this is a core use functionality. Similarly, everything in manufacturing is a core use functionality. Everything within R&D is again a core use. So all of your project users and other categories become core use. Anybody who's doing any sales activities is core use. Anybody in service is core use. And anybody who is in supply chain is again a core use. So core use again becomes, I would say, the most powerful user after the advanced user, okay, who is required only for finance, HR, and sourcing procurement. And then there are a whole lot of users who are required for execution. And a lot of the execution related users, be it in the area of asset management, manufacturing, or supply chain, correct, are all actually sitting within the self-service use. So if you keep this in mind, you can actually go ahead and optimize your license portfolio very significantly. Last but not the least, all master data maintenance is covered by the core use, okay, or the advanced use. And if you're going and doing only display and workflow approvals, correct, then the lowest category of user that can go ahead and do it is the self-service user. So typically, anyone who is in an executive position who is just approving a workflow and looking at reports can be actually assigned the self-service user instead of the advanced user, the way it happens today. Okay. So maybe with that, I will pause over here, and I'm sure that there will be a lot of questions that have come up. So maybe take up those questions, and then we can actually go ahead and get into answering some of those as we go. So over here to you, Mukesh, once again.
Thanks, thanks, Pushkar, for taking us through the entire program. So just wanted to make sure you are able to hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, cool. So there are a few questions that we have pre-collected, and there are a few questions that have come up on the chat. Let's first take up the questions that have come up as part of the chat. So one of the questions that Amit asked was, what would be a typical use case with data that might be useful for customers to understand? So that's one.
So if you can just elaborate, what does that mean?
Amit, can I ask you to unmute yourself? Yes, please.
Yes, I can explain, yeah, Pushkar. So let's say I've been using SAP for last 10 years. I am on EHP 8 right now. We have, let's say, we are a global company, and our implementation and infra is in Netherlands. Yeah. So I want to bring it back to India, in fact, so that I want to buy this S4 private cloud. And I want to use it as a use case in one of the company we just bought.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know how, let's say, my previous, let's say, implementation, how will I integrate with the new implementation? Okay. And what would be my strategy, in fact, and what would it mean in terms of costing, etc. So a typical use case means, okay, if I consider 5 plans, 100 users, etc., and then I have this particular cost, then what are we talking about in terms of cost when we are giving full control to SAP? Yeah? Because what I understand is that a customer is now giving full control to SAP for everything, yeah, for infra, for SLA, for yeah, I saw a lot of things, in fact.
So I will let me break this into a couple of questions, discrete questions, and then answer those in
yeah.
Okay. So the first thing that is there is that if you want to go ahead and bring in, one company onto S4HANA Rise to start off with, okay,
Yeah.
you can take a piecemeal approach. It's not all, that you need to bring in everything or nothing. It's not a 0-1 binary. You can go ahead and say that I have 100 users. I want to bring only one company code across. And then today there are multiple mechanisms. Let's assume that your starting point was an ECC6 EHP8 on say Oracle DB. Okay, you can go ahead and say that I will create a system copy of my original core instance over there. Okay, delete all of the company codes other than this single company code that I have, and then do a conversion to S4HANA and bring that converted system onto S4HANA Rise with SAP. Okay.
Can I do it the other way around? In fact, Pushkar, let's say I convert the existing system first and then bring about the last company.
You can do, see, there are multiple approaches that are actually available. So there are people who go ahead and do what is known as a shell conversion. Okay.
Yes.
So they will go ahead and bring in only they will do a shell conversion, and then they will bring in data only for one company code. Correct.
Yeah.
So there are various, see, some of these aspects get into the realms of, I would say, the implementation itself. Correct. And the implementation strategy, but there are multiple approaches that are actually available. So that can be done. Licensing again will be only for the number of users that you're going ahead and licensing initially.
Yeah.
Now, from a cost effectiveness perspective, look, what I will say is that I have seen the TCO to be fairly compelling, or at least at the bare minimum neutral when it comes to S4HANA Cloud. Okay. So that is I think been one of the things that we have consistently seen across all of the engagements that we have had. Okay. Uh, at the end of the day, what we have to remember is that even if I am, for example, cost neutral, correct? The intangible benefit that will come out of freeing up IT from the run operations and refocusing those people onto the transformation initiatives, that I cannot go ahead and quantify. Correct. So suppose somebody said that I will give you a more resilient ERP at the same exact total cost of ownership. Okay. And more important, I will free up your people so that they can focus on delivering on transformation initiatives around AI, around ML, around analytics, whatever else it is. It is difficult to go ahead and quantify what will be the benefits out of taking up those other projects. Correct?
Basically, Pushkar, what I understand is that I need to start a journey with the SAP itself. Let's say contact the partner, account executive in India, and then basically
Absolutely.
take ahead this with him.
Start
Right?
speaking with the account executive, and from there, then they will bring this thing. They will connect us with you, and we'll be happy to go ahead and guide you on this journey, Amit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Okay. I'm in
Pushkar.
touch with. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, let's take it separately. Yeah.
Sure.
It will take
Yes.
much time.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that's better if you can take it on a
I think this was a
one-on-one
good
basis.
question because it actually illustrated, Amit, exactly what is a very practical scenario that a lot of us face, and how do we start this journey in a small way, but with certain clear objectives in mind, end objectives in mind.
Cool.
Correct. Yeah. Thank you.
So thanks. So there is a question from BK Arora. I think the SAP DMS is asking about SAP standard DMS. Is that bundled along with the entire bundle or not?
SAP DMS is not bundled along with it. It is available in S4HANA Private Cloud. The going forward roadmap around SAP DMS, we have said that we would want customers to go ahead and leverage open text archiving and content store. Okay. So what we have done is that we have not bundled the DMS into the base offering. It is available as an add-ons queue, but recommendation is that you should go ahead and look at open text archiving and content repository, because that's the better way of going and handling it. It takes care of not only the document management aspects, but also ensures that you have archiving capabilities for your system from day one. Arora ji, does
Thanks
that answer your question?
Yeah. Thank you, Pushkar. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. So there's another question around GRC. Is it embedded? And what about IAG?
Okay. So good questions. GRC again is available as an add-on LOB. That was the case even on premise. Okay. So that is pretty much available as an add-on as we go forward. Now, the second question that you asked was around IAG, and that essentially this is a good question because see, there were two capabilities that one was talking about when one talked about IAG. One was the entire provisioning service, and the other was the access control related services which were coming in via the SAP cloud platform. So what we have done with S4HANA Rise with SAP is that these are now available via your cloud platform enterprise agreement. Okay. But the interesting part is that if these are only for SAP applications in the cloud, then any such calls for IPS and IAS are actually not metered. So effectively, they are available free of charge to you. Does that answer your question, sir?
Amit, did that answer your question?
Yes, that's perfect.
Thank you. Similar question around APM by Meridian. So is that also available as a add-on similar to OpenText in SAP S4HANA Private Cloud?
I will have to check on that. Maybe what we will do is take this offline. I will have to check on the documentation, but I will come back. So, Mukesh, if you can just take a note of who has asked this question. Happy to go ahead and get into a send a response.
Okay. So there is a question, some questions pre-prepared. So first question is, assuming that there is a customer who's already live on S4HANA. So how is this Rise with SAP offer beneficial for them?
See, a lot of our customers who went live with S4HANA initially were people who did a technical conversion, to be very precise. And over a period of time, I think there is also realization that is coming in the community saying that the activating those functional enhancements is equally critical. Now, the other point that we need to remember is that customers, that S4HANA effectively follows a 5-year support policy. So mainstream support typically is a 5-year mainstream support. So 1510 customers, for example, ended their mainstream support in 2020 December, and 1610 customers will come to an end of mainstream support in 2021 December. Okay. Now, this again goes ahead and means that two very important things. The first is that typically 5 years is the period of time for which we invest into our infrastructure. 5 years is also a point in time when you need to go ahead and create or do that version upgrade. And to that extent, this becomes a compelling event for you to evaluate moving to the cloud and also activating some of the business process transformations that are there. So I had mentioned around, talked about Signavio and the acquisition that we did. More announcements will come in over there, but what we're going to go ahead and deliver with Rise with SAP is full-blown capabilities around process intelligence, where you will be able to say that this is exactly how my process is going ahead and running today. These are the different variants that are there. And these are the places where there are bottlenecks or inefficiencies. So once that information becomes available to you or visible to you, it obviously gives you the opportunity to focus your energies and I would say remediate on those specific process steps or carry out improvements. So it is extremely, in fact, as relevant to S4HANA customers as ECC customers, because the entire focus is today not only the technical S4 capabilities but also the functional ones, and that is what we want to really go ahead and deliver to our customers. Slightly long answer, but hopefully Mukesh answers the query.
Yeah. I think in addition to that, this also offers customers the opportunity to take their on-prem S4 and make it into a subscription-based private cloud.
Absolutely.
So, as well.
Customers have got, for example, there are multiple customers I've seen who have got a lot of professional users sitting out over there, or for that matter, who have shelfwares over there. Now, the cloud is a perfect mechanism of going ahead and cleaning up all of those things and saying that these are the components that we actually want to utilize, and this is what we are going ahead and paying for. I think the other important point that there is, let's take a very simple example of things like process orchestration, correct? So PO, I think nearly all of our customers have for their integration, but going forward, the mechanism that SAP itself is going and talking about is integration suite or API-based integrations. Now, what you can do very clearly is that you can say that I will do a partial termination of my contracts, keeping PO for limited duration of time on premise. And then, once we have converted all of our integrations into the integration suite, we will actually go ahead and sunset that. So again, renewal is again a capability that that you start bringing into the discussions with your SAP account executives.
Cool, thanks. So there's another question that has come up on the chat. Assuming that customer is on ECC 6.0 on-prem, and they plan to move their instance to S4 PCE as part of this offer, is it recommended first to perform a system conversion and then move to the new infrastructure, or move to a new infrastructure and then perform system conversion? What is the preferred way or recommended way?
So, see, what I imagine over here you're saying is that you have ECC 6 right now and you want to move into the cloud. Should you do your S4 conversion on-premise before you move into the cloud? The answer to that is no. You can actually start off by saying that I will start my project on-premise, but when I'm doing the final conversion cutover, correct, I will actually go ahead and start putting my development quality productions into the cloud itself. Right? So that is something that you can go ahead and pretty much do. Not necessary that you do the conversion first on-premise and then do a system copy, or a lift and shift into the cloud.
Okay. So there's another question around the same similar lines. You mentioned business process intelligence, and so if you can elaborate on that, what do the customers get around the business process intelligence as part of the offer?
Let me see if I can pull up another slide deck, okay, and maybe show that across. Just give me 30 seconds as I do that. But look at it like this, that when we are looking at the core capabilities, correct? Okay, just let me know once you can see my.
Yeah, we can see it.
Slides. We can see it. Okay. So this is just a couple of snapshots that are there. But, if you go into the Spotlight report today, Mukesh, this is essentially what you go ahead and get. You have the various areas that we are going ahead and looking at. So it could be complaints and return management, inventory management, operate to maintain, so on and so forth. So all of these are there. And then you get a high level view in terms of how the KPIs are performing under each one of them. Okay. This is available even today if you go into your SAP BSR/Spotlight report that is available whenever a business scenario recommendation or business process intelligence report is delivered to you. Okay. Now, if you were to go ahead and click on to say order to cash over here, correct, I can get into the details of that. and start looking at my process KPIs. So there are multiple process KPIs that SAP will go ahead and capture, and these get benchmarked in terms of your peers, so and so forth. So all of the benchmarks comparisons are pre-built for you, and it's telling you which are the ones where you're doing well and which are the areas where you're actually lacking. Okay, some of this information is also available as of today. Okay, where things start going and changing is that now we are going and talking about dicing and slicing the data. Okay, so I can clearly go ahead and then start getting into specific benchmarks, start looking at this at say a company code level or a division level or whatever be it, right? And also start looking at the trends of this information as well as the industry benchmarking information. Okay, and then further on, what it allows me to do is start getting a complete view in terms of the value drivers across the process progress itself. Okay, so if I'm talking about an order to cash kind of a scenario, SD billing mein kitna time lag raha hai, FIAR item creation, dunning, and FIAR item clearing, what is the time that is required, and which are the KPIs which are going ahead and blocking or which are creating all of the hurdles, right? I can then go into each one of them, okay? And then further on, I can actually get down into a process step. Now, what the new dashboard over a period of time will start delivering to us is that at a process step, I will be able to say how many documents am I processing on a monthly basis, how many of them are projected for the year, what is the level of automation which I have, and if I put certain amount of value to time, particularly to find out an automation related return, then by moving to the best in class or the industry median, how much money am I able to go ahead and save? So that is the kind of what if that starts becoming, because see, today people are saying, I want to do transformation, I want to do automation, but automation for what? Where do I start? Where do I end? And how do I go ahead and show to my people that, this is the kind of impact that we are able to go ahead and have? This is a question that keeps coming into the CIOs day in, day out, because many of the systems that we actually go ahead and operate are considered to be bread and butter. They are considered to be bare basic hygiene. SAP chal raha hai ya fir aur aapka koi system chal raha hai, so what? Correct? When you take that capability away, it hurts, but otherwise, this is the question that comes up. Besides this, what Signavio starts bringing in, and this is another very interesting area, is that it will actually go ahead and pick up your system logs data and will start generating the manner in which the process is actually moving. So there can be more than one variants of the process that are there. Okay, so I can increase or decrease the number of variants, and this will then in turn tell me the number of case coverage that is actually happening, say with 3 variants or 4 variants or 8 variants. Okay, and then further on, I can start looking at the stages and the time and effort that is being spent on each of the stage as the process actually moves. So this gives me a visibility into how my process is actually behaving, how is it working, and are we going and doing things in the most efficient way, correct? And then I can get into a process redesign, which is obviously a next activity. So I can redesign my process. I can go ahead and say, this is the new process. And so let's assume that I wanted to bring in an RPA into this. What will actually start happening is that I will be able to go ahead and poll the marketplace, say that, okay, these are the 4 variants that are available, and then say that I want to deploy this. Now, since you already have the cloud platform enterprise agreement credits, you can leverage those or top them up depending upon how things progress. But the bottom line that is there is that this is going to give you full visibility into the very detailed process level steps that are there and what is essentially moving over there, so that you can apply transformation to the right effect. Hopefully, few slides, but they did give you a sneak peek into things to come and what capabilities we are trying to deliver.
Thanks, Pushkar. So a follow-up question on that as well as on the previous question. So the follow-up question on this one is this Signavio part that you said which will come, Is that included in the contract price that someone signs up
RISE
now?
with SAP, RISE with SAP, people who are signing up for this, as I mentioned, that they the process intelligence part is pretty much going to be something that we will go ahead and start delivering in the days to come. Okay, there are obviously Signavio has got a lot more capabilities than just process intelligence. Those obviously continue to be paid, and those will be top-ups that you can always go ahead and avail of. But the process intelligence capability is something that we will go ahead and roll out as a part of our RISE offering. Since the company, we took over Signavio only around 28th of January. It will take a couple of more months for some of these assets to land into SAP data centers and then to get integrated into the portal itself.
And where is the Spotlight? How can customers access these reports on Spotlight?
Okay, so if you go across to s4hana.com, let me just open that a minute. See, this is the page we used to always access for getting our business scenario recommendation service report, BSR report. This is today known by a different name. Okay, so evolution, it says start your transformation journey to S4HANA with process discovery. Okay, and as I mentioned, this is nothing else but the evolution of SAP BSR on Spotlight, which was earlier available. So you apply, you can go ahead and get this report by applying these notes which are there. So the detailed process to be followed is available over here. On the other hand, if you are an existing S4HANA customer, correct, then the report that is relevant to you is not the process discovery, the business scenario recommendation, but what is known as the Pathfinder report. So for that, what we typically recommend is that get in touch with your enterprise support advisor or your account executive, and they should be able to go ahead and get you the notes that have to be applied for creating the input for the Pathfinder report itself. Okay, but both of these will actually give you access to the Spotlight report, okay, or the process discovery report. And it is this process discovery report which is going to be made available in an enhanced manner to all of our RISE customers in the days to come.
And which very clearly means that the Signavio is not included, licensing is not included.
The full Signavio, the thing is not included. See, Signavio's entire suite is a very, very rich suite. Okay, subset of those capabilities around process intelligence are going to be available, and they will be embedded into the process discovery tool.
Okay, cool. So there's a follow-up question to the previous question, which is, assuming that around the cloud conversion, converting your S4 on-prem to cloud, right? So the follow-up question is, can you confirm if the system conversion and move to the new infrastructure can be achieved in one single business downtime window for my production environment, so that they don't want to have two downtimes?
Yes, it can be.
So there is something called as near zero downtime.
NCDT may not even be required over there, but single downtime window, you can go ahead and accomplish this. Obviously, the level of efforts or planning that will be required may differ depending upon the size of the instance. Okay, but it can be done with a single downtime.
Okay, cool. So maybe one last question before we kind of either close, or if there are any further questions, please put them on the chat. When we talk about migrating their existing ERP to the cloud, there are two main questions that come up. One is around security. How secure is the entire thing from hackers? And second thing is what happens to the customizations that customers already have?
Okay. So let me go ahead and answer the first one for the second one first. Okay. So your customizations which you're going ahead and running on premise, they will pretty much run on the cloud. You don't need to worry about it, particularly when you're going ahead and talking about RISE with SAP private cloud option. Okay, so don't need to, those will just basically get remediated, and we will take those forward. Second question that is there is in terms of the security itself. I will just go ahead and put out a URL. Just give me 30 seconds. So if you just go across to the SAP Trust Center, okay. The Trust Center essentially talks about the different compliances which we go ahead and run, be it SOC 1, SOC 2, be it the ISO related certifications. But what we go ahead and do is that, go ahead and implement an extremely high level of, I would say, security related methods to go ahead and protect all of the customer data. So this is point number one. Second point which I want to highlight is that, when it comes to going ahead and taking care of the residency, SAP provides the flexibility of either hosting it, say, within India itself. So, we are also going to have a GDPR equivalent legislation come up in the near future. So in case you need to go ahead and comply with that, yes, you can host it within India. But there are customers who say that, look, I have a subsidiary in Brazil or in Europe for which I want to look at this. Can you host it in those specific geographies? And the answer to that is yes, we can. The only thing that you will have to do is tell us in advance that this is where we want to host it. And it is pretty much possible to go ahead and provide that particular option to you. Okay. But in terms of the cloud security itself, you should be rest assured that, SAP prides itself in going ahead and complying, with various different security norms itself. And then it actually does proactively invest into the various security certifications, as well as both white box as well as black box security testing, breach related testing. So we have various different mechanisms of going ahead and ensuring that the data is being stored in a secure way.
Thanks, Pushkar. So just so that everyone knows, INDUS also has a security special interest group where we talk about all the different things that that SAP does, as well as some of the products that SAP offers in that area, as well as some of the best practices that customers should follow to ensure that their systems don't get hacked at all. So if you want, the next session for the cloud security SIG is later today, I think at 4:30 p.m. today. So if someone wants to join, just drop me a message and I can share the link for you to register and join that session as well. And it's a monthly session that we run every month, same day, same time, just like this one, which is every month, same day, same time. So maybe one question before we kind of close, Pushkar, is, if I understood correctly, based on whatever you shared, this entire one contract means that SAP will be responsible for the infrastructure updates, the OS updates, as well as the application updates, right?
Absolutely. So infrastructure, obviously, because we are hosting this into, specific SAP certified data centers, yes, those happen automatically. Same happens with OS and application level. So the only point which I want to highlight is any functional upgrades that are there or updates that are there, correct, is something that falls within the responsibility of the customers. Okay. But everything that's related to keeping lights on is something that SAP takes care of.
And what roles do the partners play here in terms of implementation and upkeep?
So see, the partners will go ahead and play the traditional roles that they have gone ahead and done, be it in the area of AMS, be it in the area of implementation. Nothing changes over there per se. The only thing is, for example, partners would have been earlier investing basis resources to go ahead and do the installation, to do the hardening, to do various other things. So those will not be part of their role and responsibility. Similarly, when it comes to keeping lights on, there were partners who would take care of patching, doing OS upgrades, so on and so forth. That is again something that you don't need to go ahead and worry about. So partners and customers are both being freed in a way to go ahead and focus on the business outcome side of the house rather than keeping lights on. That will be a good summary, if I was to go ahead and put that across.
Super. Thank you so much, Pushkar. I think I don't have any further questions pre-prepared or
Sure.
on the chat. I've put in a poll. If I can request everyone to respond to the poll, that will be really great. And if there are any questions that anyone has, maybe you can ask now. There was a question from Pratap. Pratap, we did answer the question regarding the Signavio products. Do you have any further follow-up questions for that? Or are you good with the response that you got? Okay, good. He's good with the response as well.
Okay. So I think, this is an evolving topic, if I was to use that word. And Mukesh, so what I would suggest is that any point in time, I think everyone knows you, has your contact details. Once we have enough and more questions, we could just do an open house, and we'll be happy to come back again and take any kind of questions or queries that actually come up.
Okay, thank you. And by the way, the session is already available on the INDUS YouTube channel. The recording of the session, it has been live broadcasted on YouTube. So if you go to youtube.com/INDUS community, you will find the recording there. I will also add the recording as a reply to the meeting invite that we sent out. Pushkar, if you can share the PPT, you can actually directly put it on the chat. And the chat option, there is a way for you to.
I will convert that into a PDF and share that across with you in maybe an hour.
Okay. Thanks. And the next month, S4HANA SIG meeting is again on the Thursday at 11 a.m. And we will be doing for the next couple of weeks, meet an expert. So we will bring an expert on a particular function of S4 and take questions on that functionality or on that particular topic around S4, any questions that you might have. So one of the things that a lot of customers have asked is, we've gone live with S4, now what we do? So we are trying to answer that question as part of this series as well. So you will find answer to those questions in the next month's session. So with that, if there are no further questions, I'd like to thank everyone for your time. Thanks, Pushkar, for your time and sharing the insights and information about the program. And at any point in time, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to me, mukesh.gupta@sap.com or admin@induscommunity.com, or just simply reply to the email that you got as an invitation for you to join this SIG. You can also post the question on the INDUS WhatsApp group, the S4HANA WhatsApp group. If you are already not on the group, let me know, and I'll invite you to the group. So anything and everything around S4 for INDUS is going to be on that WhatsApp group. With that, thank you everyone. Have a good day. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.